Back in the year 1875, a group of Catholics of German descent who attended St. Mary's Church, which is on near Monroe and St. Antoine, had a school, and that school building is still there. One of our sister organizations, the Team for Justice, has its office in that school, right in the Greektown area. The parents who lived north of Gratiot and whose children attended St. Mary's School felt that they wanted a school closer to where they lived. And so they petitioned the Bishop of Detroit to establish a parish north of Gratiot. And that was done. The purpose of the parish really was for a school. And so this building was built in 1875. And behind the church, between what is now the rectory, the parish house, which was also built in 1875, a wooden frame school was built along with this church. The people built this church for the education of their children. This was their main concern, and that's why we continue to stress education to this day. It's very important to us, the education of adults and children. And the parish is made up mostly of Catholics of German descent. And the parish flourished, and so much so that a school was built, a brick school in 1889. And that school would be right in McDonald's parking lot. And the school building eventually was torn down. But alongside of the history of this parish, in that same St. Mary's School, in 1911, a group of what was called then colored Catholics, Catholics of African American descent, gathered at St. Mary's School to go to church, because the churches were very segregated, including Catholic churches in the city of Detroit. And so the pastor of St. Mary's would have Mass in the school for that group of black Catholics. But that group began to grow. In 1913, this group of African American Catholics purchased a little Episcopal church at the corner of Beaubien and Elliott, and it's still there. The church was called St. Peter Claver, a saint in South America who worked with the slaves, the black slaves that came from Africa. And his statue's in the back there. The church was named St. Peter Claver, and that church flourished. As a matter of fact, some apartment rooms were bought and a school was started. As the population of the German Catholic Sacred Heart began to go down, the population of St. Peter Claver Church was growing. By 1938, the German Catholics of this parish had gone further out, and so the Bishop of Detroit asked St. Peter Claver Church to become Sacred Heart, to close that building and to come and use this church and this parish house and the school across the street, and for St. Peter Claver to become Sacred Heart. And so there was a procession up the street, and in September 38, and the people of St. Peter Claver became Sacred Heart Church. And the school, many of the people who are here tonight went to that school. And the school had from first to all the way through 12th grade, crowded in that building. And the high school finally closed because the churches gradually, the segregation, the open segregation somewhat disappeared, and people could go to the schools and the churches in their own neighborhoods. And the Chrysler Freeway was coming through, and urban renewal, which really meant people removal, sent a lot of people away from this neighborhood. And so the school was closed in 1965, completely. In 1968, just before I got here, Sacred Heart Center, a rehabilitation center for alcoholics, asked to use the building for the men, a residential center for men. And you may know about Sacred Heart Center, it still exists. Sacred Heart Center took its name from Sacred Heart, from being at Sacred Heart School. And after a while they moved out, they moved to, what was the Lucy Thurman Y, then Angelus Hall, and take over that residence. And the program rehabilitated many of the men that were in it, the alcoholic men, but however they did not rehabilitate the building. So the building was torn down, and it was just a field, just a big field. It was part of the playground of the school and parking lot, and it was just a lot of weeds until McDonald's came in. So even though without a school, our parish has grown. In 1981, we dedicated the activities building, and hopefully we'll continue to expand. Even now, looking for more property, looking to discuss with the city expansion of our property to the south, and even thinking about perhaps adding on to the activities building. The reason why I say perhaps is because that takes a lot of thought and a lot of encouragement, and it takes a lot of people. We're just talking now, but if we ever do that, you know, we want all the people to come and talk about it, see if we really need that, and whether we really want it, and we want to put out the money that is needed to do that. So that is, I always like to give a little bit of the history of the church. You know, the Detroit Historical Society has 2 tours a year, and they come to Sacred Heart, and I give them the story of the church, and how it began, and who's here now. And the church has grown, and it continues to grow. We have about 1,200 households, that's 1,200 families. That comes to almost 3,000 people. And I think I'm proud of being from Sacred Heart. And I'm always proud when people say, who are you and where are you from? I'm always proud to say Sacred Heart Church. Now I asked Bishop Gummilton to get here as soon as he could, and you may think I'm stalling, but I'm not until he gets here. I'm not, because I wanted to take this opportunity to let you know what the history of this church is. That it's a proud history. It's it really is the beginning of African American Catholicism, not just in Detroit, but I don't know of any other parish that goes beyond or precedes 1911. There's no other parish in the state of Michigan. So this is where it began. And so we have a great tradition and a great heritage. And I know that people from Sacred Heart have always been very proud of Sacred Heart. When people have to leave and they go to another city, I always tell them, you know, you can't go until we give you permission. You can go. We don't want you to go. And some people leave reluctantly, but they have to go on. I would like one of the songs that the confirmation class requested was "What Shall I Render to God for All His Mercies?" What shall I render? Because God has everything, and everything belongs to God. And what shall I render is a question. Has been given to me from God. It's a gift from God. How differently we would live our lives and how differently we would think about ourselves and about each other. Let us stand together and let us sing that song. I want to look up the number, Mr. Prince, is 110. Hymn number 110. And for the sake of the confirmation class, let us all try to sing it. Don't have to have a great voice. Sing it the best that we can.